continue to add fields and they continue to expand, so. Be interested to know what their long-term plan is. That's my main goal.
Mhm.
Get what's their long-term plan.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's massive. I
Yeah.
mean, they have everything, bars, sports,
It's
stores.
the kind of facility we're looking to build, isn't it?
It's like a mall, a sporting mall.
Yeah.
Well, there's also one in Friendship Heights. They opened like a branch.
I
Like
think
it's like a gym type.
It's a gym, but
Yeah,
it's not,
yeah.
it's not, it's not what they're.
It's not like a full.
But
it's-
they are interested in expanding and doing private-public partnerships and.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. so
Okay.
That could be a good, based on which way we go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What happened with the open land on the GIS?
We'll see. I was just gonna ask Samantha, do you have the maps pulled up? Like if we
I
give
can pull them
you.
up right now. I have the spreadsheet though. I'll pull up the map
Okay,
right
yeah, if you
now.
pull up both, and that way I can maybe let you share if you wanna.
I thought he would include all the bus lines and all the metro stations because we had that, but I think he deleted that. from
He
the-
probably removed it, yeah, but I think we could probably navigate for the most part, because we know where it is,
I think the most critical piece is taking a look. Because the goal today is we want to give you guys clear direction on what presentation we want to make to the task to the econ committee next month. Because the goal would be to, next month's meeting, review everything, and then, we move forward with the presentation to econ. So the question is, can we get them to a point today, whereas they're making a decision on which direction to go on what type of facility? And that, I think a big piece of that is what land is available. Like, because if there isn't the land to do an outdoor soccerplex type facility, then we're looking at an indoor facility, and that's it.
The biggest thing around here is White Flint, but White Flint's kind of in the middle of everything. There's neighborhood.
so would it be?
Learners are not gonna do
Yeah.
this type of
You're
facility.
streaming now.
Okay.
They're waiting to kind of see what happens in that.
The learn,
Well, it is 11:30, so I'll unmute us.
All right.
Give it a few minutes, I guess. And somebody's on.
Morning, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple more, somebody's in over in Teams and we gotta get them here.
Welcome. So happy to have you.
Great to see you.
I am so tired, but I'm good. Hey, guys.
We had 7 hours of public hearings yesterday.
7 hours of public.
Yes,
It's not watching Solidarity on you.
we were done at 10 o'clock PM.
Really?
Oh, look at
Is that right, really? You went that long?
Nothing controversial.
that. Oh, my God.
Hours in the afternoon and 3 at night.
It's on the event. I just updated the event.
Tell me, you look tired already. Just starting this process, man. All the people asking you, begging you, and cajoling you.
Yeah,
Well, Myers, if you wanna.
it's in,
Look at their.
coming up very soon.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you how many total. Okay.
4 that I know, 4.
You see Jeff is in this. but
Not me.
I don't see him on the screen.
Somebody's gotta hold down the fort.
There he is.
We're gonna do it, right? At some
Yeah.
point.
Hey, Jeff.
So I don't know your names.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna chill.
And then who was in Teams? Is somebody else coming? Did you
No,
say-
I don't see anybody there now.
Nobody there. Okay.
That's the.
You background. Okay. Us?
What are we waiting for?
What is it? Yeah, no, I don't think we're waiting for anybody. Can somebody say something just so we can test the volume, please? Sorry.
That means virtual people.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you, Matt.
Oh, parks.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't going crazy.
I can pull up our agenda too, if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it's just a recap of everything and kind of kicking off. We did introductions last time. We have kind of have a hybrid of everybody being, can you guys hear us okay? I just wanted to make sure that, okay, perfect. So as we kick off and appreciate everybody's time again today, we're gonna have a presentation again from the interns as a follow-up from last month's meeting. And continuing that conversation. I just kind of want to remind everybody where we're trying to get to is we need to kind of get to a position in April, so next month's meeting, we need to kind of get to a position where we have a little bit more of an idea so that we can make a request for kind of a budget is it a budget appropriation? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, budget appropriation for a study of what we decide that we need. So I think today's goal is to kind of continue the conversation from last time, get through some GIS. We're gonna look at some mapping of potential sites. We're gonna review a survey, draft survey that you guys have. Matt, thank you. I got your email and we'll kind of just share the survey with you and appreciate your willingness to do that. In addition to that, we kind of want to get again to a point of hopefully narrowing down the scope by understanding what land is available in Montgomery County, because that's going to be a big piece. We have all these great plans, but if we don't have land, that is going to kind of hold us back. So let's start. Anybody have any opening remarks before we get going? Do you?
Just,
Natalie?
Councilmember Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, it's a great pleasure of having you guys here as part of the team.
Okay, great. Thank you. If not, I'm gonna turn it over to you guys, and I know who's leading us. We're doing a survey first, so if we could, we're gonna walk through the survey and this is, again, a draft. It's just about ready to go, but we want to get some feedback on the final questions. This survey is going to event organizers, and that the goal is kind of event organizers, so not to the general public. This will be people kind of organizing events to kind of basically try and get some information back on what people are looking for and what the really is important to them.
Right.
So, okay, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, I am in the waiting room.
Oh, you are.
So I
Sorry,
want to share that.
That is you. Are you in now?
Excuse me.
It shouldn't be a phone number.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Are you in this call? Can you tell that you're in the call? I'm gonna just, sorry, guys, one second.
Technical issues.
Always.
While they're waiting, I had a conversation twice since we met. And separately came up twice, are you in sports tourism, Montgomery County? Have we ever looked at road races, bicycle races?
Yeah.
That's a big thing for a lot of folks. It generates a lot of people coming in and there's a whole economic element. And I was like, oh, I honestly don't, that hasn't come up on my radar, but I just throw it out there as it has.
There's one,
Can you just go back?
Yeah.
but I think we have
Through the
amazing.
year calendar.
It makes so much sense.
So that
Like on Teams, it,
that actually was discussed a number of years ago.
That's you, okay.
Yeah.
Can you maybe email that link?
Also, as we was kind of, one of the conversations happened about crossfines before crossfines was,
because I have everything open up.
and what is it, the Pelotron?
Okay.
Pelodrome, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's a circular, we're talking about putting in a pelodrome and trying to develop races around that and stuff of that
That was when
nature.
Casey Anderson was here.
Yeah, that was a while
We
ago.
can call them anytime, but you know, the other thing that Jeff, you know, this from MCPS, you guys are adding more, like at least in my kids' school, my kids go to the Session Middle School in Wheaton. They now have bicycles donated by a company, and the idea is to provide free bikes and have classes teach kids how to bike. DC does it from elementary school, we're doing it from middle school, that's okay, it's little steps. But it will be amazing if we, at some point, we can have races, bicycle races around the school
Thank you. Sorry.
and connect to professionals. That would be so.
Yeah.
High-end market too.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
travel, they have money, they
Have money.
come and they spend money and lots of people, you can put a lot of people pay to participate, much more than.
So is that-
any-
Is
Yeah,
that,
Keith, I have a whole bunch of cycling groups on my list of rights holders, so they're included.
oh, good,
Nice.
thank you,
Yeah,
Matt.
and we have an existing relationship with USA Cycling through the Maryland Cycling Classic in Baltimore.
That's really.
Wonderful.
So, and in regard to road race or bike, like with most sports things, there's a pretty great distinction between that sort of high-end professional, super complicated
Yeah.
people that travel on the circuit and all that, which is super fancy. But there's a massive capability for I mean, just think the difference between a New York Marathon and the Montgomery County
Yeah.
Marathon. You could put a lot of people, if we so chose, at the rec level, and it creates a community-related event, it creates economic growth, but it's a different kind of a thing. You don't need nearly as much investment on that second tier. But you can get a lot of people, but it's just not as big a deal.
So along those lines though, in regards to that, is there an actual facility that's built or is it just more
So
of?
the Pelodrome is a whole different deal. That's the idea
Yeah.
of getting involved, like Olympic
Yeah.
cycling, so, and that is in line with what this committee
Yes.
is looking at. But the road race idea is completely separate.
It's already done with the truck
Using-
we have.
It's using, it can be off-road, it can be on-road, it can be parks, it can be literally just like on a Sunday morning, you take the roads, you close
Yeah.
them off. And you can take a pretty substantial amount of whether a period of mileage and close it off and then open it up pretty fast. It doesn't disrupt as much as.
It's
a lot
like
of-
running, when you do the Parks Half
Exactly.
Marathon, I do that
Exactly.
marathon. It's you closer for a half a day.
Yes, yeah, favorite farms.
By 5 o'clock, you never even know anything happened.
All right, if we could come back to the survey and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's
Yeah.
turn it over.
That took a while, but to start, originally what our plan was to have two different surveys, one for organizers and one for sports, people involved in sports, and we narrowed it down to just the organizers. So if you look on the screen, we have the first draft of our organizer survey. We had a little introduction to tell our organizers what the point of the survey is and what the information we need from them is for. And then we have about 16 questions. I'm going to show you the site the survey is on after this. This is just the written draft. So,
Can we zoom that?
yeah, I can.
Thank you.
Well, I was wondering, maybe.
Hold down the participants tab.
Close out
It'll
the
get
capacity.
bigger.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go. All right.
Way better.
So here's some of the questions. I'm just gonna go through them real
Yeah.
quick, and then I'll show you them, what they'll look like for the actual survey part. So there's gonna be multiple choice questions to start off with. These are geared at just getting information on what what the previous organizers do, what kind of sports they tend to. What
If
their
you could just slow down a little bit, let's just kind of get through the actual questions. I just want to make sure that the task force has any changes to any of this. Love some feedback. We can even share it with you in advance, but most critical, so what are the most critical factors? Selecting venue amenities, cost, accessibility. Everybody good with that? Any thoughts on that one?
I would
Anything
change
else
it
that would-
instead of select all, I would have them rank them.
Oh, I like that.
Rank them,
Yeah,
I agree, yeah. They will here agree.
All right,
Next one.
question 2.
Okay, just on the first one. Does it say, I'm looking for, does it say demand?
What do you mean?
Meaning, teams and players and coaches who were looking for a tournament? Meaning demand, for the tournament. Location, I get it's a location question. Just keep going, but I do think the question becomes.
There is another question.
Like the type of sport.
No, I mean, what people think is the driving force behind the tournament. Does the sport need a tournament?
Okay,
Oh.
Are we fulfilling a need that people say, I want a tournament?
Well,
Yes.
Tom, this survey is only going to people that run tournaments.
Yeah,
That's true.
Okay,
so not to the general public or users, Tom, this is just all the organizers
Right.
themselves.
sometimes I'm just gonna offer, everything I say, Matt knows more about it, but I would offer that sometimes people start with, we want a tournament and we want to make money. They don't look at, is the demand there for a tournament?
I see.
Gotcha.
And they're the tournament organizers, do it all the time. Let's do it. Businesses do it. Let's do it because we want to do it because that's what we should do. But if the demand isn't there, you're kind of missing the point from the get-go. Unless you're going to create the demand. That's all I'm just saying. But I think let's leave it in when.
Yeah, okay. Youth, collegiate, amateur, adult, professional, and multi-sports. Any categories we're missing there?
When you say youth tournaments, is that like high school, middle school? Is that what you
I think
mean?
that encompasses high school and below.
And below, like, okay.
I was gonna ask the same question. Is further clarification needed with youth and high school interscholastic?
Maybe we could put an age.
Yeah, we could put a age restriction in there, maybe 18 and below to specify that, or talk more high school and below rather than youth.
Yeah, I think you're digging too far into it. Like the tournament operators will understand what this is asking.
Experience in Maryland. That's a simple one.
Tom, I think the number 3 might get to what you're asking. So
In regards to what, Matt?
what's that?
In regards to what we're
So-
asking?
Yeah, when Tom was asking about like, can they make a tournament here? I think if they have done something in Maryland, that answer is yes, they can do it. If they haven't, the answer may be because it's not something they can feasibly do in Maryland.
Right, so in other words, if they wanted to do a tournament for such and such sport, they haven't done one because there are no facilities available.
Or it's not, that sport's not viable in Maryland or whatever it may be. I think this question will get that answer you're looking for, Tom.
Okay. And next one.
We add Frederick to this because it's adjacent.
I would make it as open-ended. We're a small state, like, I mean, just if they're in Harford County, that still affects us.
I keep it into an open-ended.
And you'll actually find a lot of these groups, if they are in Maryland, they're crossing county lines.
Should we let them yeah, if you leave it open-ended, then if they host it in multiple counties, they'll list them out.
Yeah.
I mean, even events we host here at the Soccerplex, we spill over into Frederick County.
Right. Okay. Okay. Montgomery County compared to this.
Change their reason.
Yeah, so what do we, we're asking there compared to other counties.
Just a perception.
Yeah, and then you're following it up underneath with what he Steve McKinney's greatest strengths is sports touring.
I assume question 7 is what are our greatest weaknesses?
Yep.
Yeah, I would eliminate question 5.
Okay.
It's not gonna give you anything.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Next.
Can somebody read it out loud? I still can't see that far away. I can just see.
Wanna come up?
No, yeah, I'm gonna. I'm like squinting.
Yeah, you see, if you want, you can see.
That's okay. This is it. Oh my goodness.
Questioning, we've talked about this, but I forget. The providers, tournament organizers, are they or we survey nationwide or just from Maryland or? close?
Nationwide.
Do we do a lot of events, Matt? Are there events that come in from across the country to the Soccerplex
Yes,
now? They're all.
yes.
So the people getting the survey though, it's possible they've never had an event here?
Yeah,
Most of them have not.
so they wouldn't know.
Oh, so that question's not a good question then. 'Cause they don't know they don't necessarily know the community.
So there are some questions that we have as like required. And I don't believe that that's one of the required ones.
Okay.
So it would be one that they could just kind of.
So if they have been here, they can answer,
Yeah.
but if not, I don't.
Okay.
I see.
Yep.
Before we go further, can you scroll back up to the first question for me real quick? You need to add an item in there for grant availability or financial assistance availability in the answers.
That's a good point.
That is a great point.
I think we talked about financial incentives a little bit farther down into the survey.
It needs to be in this question because it's a driving factor for operators.
Okay.
Yeah, this whole section needs to be reworked. Because you're assuming they know what is here. We need to ask them what they need.
Okay.
What types, what specific types of facilities? Are you looking for or?
Yeah,
Did you already ask that?
Yeah.
yeah, if you guys send me this, I'll rework this section.
What is, go up to, did we ask that question already? What facilities that we?
Yeah.
No, maybe not.
We don't.
Okay, it's just.
We're probably gonna have to play with the order of these questions as well.
Yeah. Okay. One of those. Yeah.
Any sports missing?
Scroll down just a little bit for number 10.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that I'll add in there, like cheer and dance,
Oh, yeah.
Wrestling?
wrestling.
Track and field.
Yeah, I'll put it as running. event.
Cycling? I
Yeah,
mean,
cycling. There's
it's
a
not
lot.
whole conversation.
Yeah, I have the list sorted by sport. So
Flag football, don't forget that one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. There's the financial incentive.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
There you go. There's your grants.
What would tax breaks mean?
Hmm.
emissions and amusement tax is one. I
Do
mean,
we control that locally, or is that a state thing?
That can be controlled locally.
it's collected at the state, but it's set at the county level.
Yeah.
I mean, the bigger event like FIFA and the Olympics, they require that they pay no taxes. Not everyone does that, but yeah, there's some tax things in there that people
That's
do.
a bill we can work on, right there. Yeah,
There you go.
like it.
I like it.
Thing is-
So maybe this question, Matt, to your point, maybe this question goes from here, maybe this goes right up to the top. After the first question, maybe we get right into, as you reorder it, I don't know if that makes sense. But if this is more important to the organizers, get it in early so that they continue down the survey.
Yeah, we, depending on what the rest of the questions look like, I'll play with the order a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
To remain competitive.
I would
Yeah.
say to be competitive, because.
They're not gonna know what to answer this question with.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what your goal was. Are you asking like what amenities they're looking for, or?
I think it,
Trends.
yeah,
In the
maybe just
sport.
more trends of like,
Locations, areas of the country they prefer.
Or even a trend that would fundamentally
Sports trend.
affect it would be the disinclination to travel by plane or far distance. In a recession, you're going to travel
Yeah.
a lot shorter by car than you would normally today. So that would be a trend that we would like to, we would pretty much benefit from at some point. So
They're still not gonna understand this question though.
I mean, whatever, yeah, you might get some responses that,
Doesn't have
sort of
to-
mining.
It's not required.
It's not required,
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. I know 14, I'm trying to figure out that one. Applies local code to board support.
It does make sense, because you'll get groups that want, marketing support and assistance with housing or assistance with other things to do while they're here. This isn't a bad question. This is one to keep in there.
Okay. That's where but basically that's where your larger events then, Matt, all right?
Even the
I mean,
smaller events, like
Yeah.
if even if you're bringing in 100 people, they need something to do when they're not on the field or the court. So they'll lean on like the CBB for what else is going on while they're here.
Gotcha.
I don't think you need 15. I think you just
Okay.
say under 15, any additional comments you want to make. Or provide.
16 is the last one, so I might flip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Matt, do you think that there's worth asking? I'm thinking about the difference between existing events and launching new events. It feels to me like
We could ask that
Knowledge.
question.
what's that?
We should definitely ask that question.
It's a different dynamic in
Yep.
decision process.
What, give us an idea of the wording of that. What would you be looking at there?
Would Maryland be an option to bring a new event or an existing event?
Back up what you were asking about Maryland and the state and
Yeah.
stuff, maybe adding that question in that area there. Okay. All right. Anything else that we think we're missing on this?
I mean, the big thing we're missing is actually asking what they want. What type of venue they're looking for, how many fields and courts do they need, or pools, or whatever it may be. This isn't telling us anything of where we should take this next. This is just kind of asking if Maryland's even an option for them, but that doesn't tell us what they actually need.
And should those be open-ended as well?
They might be need to be a little more tailored to depending on who what the sport is.
Okay.
Because if you're asking about soccer, it's one set of questions. If you're asking about swimming, it's a whole different set of questions.
Can you just leave that more, kind of fill in the blank, what sport are you looking to host? How many number of fields or playing surfaces do you need? That type of thing, and let them just fill it in that way, Matt?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah.
And you can leave one of the options as NA for not applicable for, like, if you're asking a soccer group about a pool, number of pools, they can put an NA. And also we need to ask them like what amenities they're looking for, because that plays into it. Whether that's, Wi-Fi at every field, streaming capabilities, on-site concessions, parking, like all of that needs to be built into this somewhere.
So we need to build an additional section that kind of talks more specifically about the facilities. Right,
Correct.
that they require.
Yes.
As part of a series of questions in that.
Yeah, because we can take those answers, and if there's a consensus that, hey, we surveyed 150 groups and 50 of them said they need the basketball courts or volleyball courts, and these are the amenities, then that gives us a direction to go to. But if we don't ask the question, we still don't know what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
Do we have a sense of how many? Just like it might be, if we can maybe just draft them now, then we're good to go.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think to give them more direction to build this out. Matt, I'm thinking rather than trying to get sports specific, let them give us that information. Is there a couple of key questions that we can develop? So in other words, what sport, let them name the sport. Number of playing surfaces required, like if it's swimming, one pool, you know what I mean? That type of thing. Let them kind of answer, if it's softball, we need this many fields, soccer, I need this many fields, that type of thing. And then the third question to that would be the amenities, like you're talking about, Wi-Fi, parking. Do you just
You can just leave that one open-ended.
leave it open-ended? And how do we ask that? Just what amenities you
What
need?
amenities are you looking for in a facility?
I'll give an example, e.g. Wi-Fi.
Bathrooms.
Lighted, bathrooms, yeah.
Yeah,
Just have to think of those then. When we get them on, we can sort them.
yeah. So it would be 3 additional questions,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, they're gonna have to answer that pretty easily because it's all in their RFPs.
Right.
So Matt, it's Kelly. There's a general rule of thumb on the number of questions in surveying. I don't have my marketing team's not here, but do you think it's too long? And
No,
that
this-
people will,
This is fine.
okay.
They
Well,
can
even
finish
if we
this in
add
5
those
minutes.
3, we're talking about 19 questions. It's a lot.
Some of
So
them are not
I just want to
required.
make sure we.
Yeah, no, I think you're raising a good point. It's.
Fine. Matt would know.
So then I agree with then the order, right? What we want to do is make sure we have that type of, those 3 questions pretty early. We have some of those move up earlier.
Yeah, and you
That's what-
probably want to ask basic demographic questions like name, organization.
State,
Yeah, that.
city, state,
Yes.
or zip code or whatever.
Also, it's obvious, but you need to repeat it, that who you send it to depends on what your answer is going to be, depends on who you send it to. So the question Matt answered, identified, what do you need? Fundamentally is who are you sending it to? So we need to have a pretty extensive, comprehensive, integrated outreach effort, because if you just send it to people that do soccer, then you're going to get, oh wow, there's a massive soccer interest, when in fact it may not be relative to the whole.
No, I have a good cross section here, Tom. I got 132 organizations that run the gamut from water polo to martial arts to softball, pickleball, ice hockey, gymnastics, dodgeball, boxing, bike racing, badminton, soccer, quad ball, cheer and dance, flag football, tennis, skateboarding, extreme sports, kayaking. I'm running the gamut here.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
I even threw Aussie rules football in for fun.
Yeah, water polo is more normal than quad ball.
So-
Quad ball.
What's gonna be the process? You guys are gonna update this based on the
Yes.
feedback and then you send it to Matt for
Yes.
another?
Yes.
We don't-
And actually, Matt is gonna share the link out. Once we get it set up, Matt's gonna share the link. And that'll be the process. Is the task force comfortable with everything and just allowing that to go through its process, or? I think at this point, we're in good enough shape to go. Okay, there's nothing that we feel is missing.
I would say just try to get it out as quickly as
Yes.
possible. If not by the end of the week, then by Monday, just because time's running out.
I agree. Yeah, we need some input back, definitely. Absolutely.
My sense is from our research operations, we often get to this point and say, okay, what do we think we're going to get out of this? And what are we going to do with it, depending on what we think we're going to get out of it?
Mhm.
Are we clear what we think we're going to get out of it? Like a clear sense of what the needs are? Like, or is this sort of just a generic sense of what's out there in the world without as much prescription to it? I'm curious as to what the group thinks.
I mean, if we add the question in about what people need, I think it's going to be able to give us a direction of what we should be looking at. If there's a overwhelming demand for court sports or an overwhelming demand for rectangular outdoor fields or diamonds or whatever it is, I think that'll give us a direction to move next, which we can then match to the GIS stuff about what's available.
Well, we're gonna talk about some of that now too. I think to your point, it's like probably supplemental in that you probably will have an idea. You may learn something new that makes you want to change your direction or just confirms that what the road you're on is generally correct, probably. But yeah, I mean, at no point, there's no one thing that'll give you the answer probably, right? So it's mostly what you think and then using this evidence to support it or not.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, what I would like to see is just kind of understand what they are looking for. These are the event organizers. What's important for them? And what are we missing? So I think even as we consider a new facility here, at least when we're building it, it's what's important to build. If we get basketball responses or indoor responses, what's important for that? How many courts do we need? What size facility do we need? If it's outdoor, again, what size facility do we need? What do they look for? Right? I mean, if you build I'll just use soccer. If you build a soccer facility with 5 soccer fields, based on this information, that might not be enough, right? Or it might be. Maybe that's what they like, small ones. So I think it's just kind of, and I agree with Bilal, it's just taking that into context with everything that we're looking at. Because the GIS survey, my choice is not too much land available in Montgomery County anyway.
White Flint, I'm saying,
I know.
White Flint Mall site.
It's got a very prominent place on our map.
Yeah.
So I'd offer one more thought then, which is for our information with this group, and again, Matt probably has a pretty good sense and the rest of us don't. I'd like to know how, as an example, this isn't the right question, but it's close to. How many new tournaments have you launched in the last 5 or 10 years, or how many times have you moved? Like, what's the dynamic out there? Because all these people could say all these things. Everybody wants more, but they're like, I'm never moving because this is where I am. And that would be of value. So it's something about, or how many times have you gone to a new facility in the last, something in the area of that.
I like that. How many facilities have you hosted? How many events do you host? Right, so as we get the name of the organizer, the city, state where they're from, how many events do you currently run? How many new facilities have you gone to in the last 5 years? Not the best wording, but that kind of context, right?
I'll just jump in. It's unnecessary based on the list I have. Like, I'm pulling this from Sports ETA. The whole purpose of that organization for these rights holders is to find new venues. Like, it's a redundant question at that point.
Okay. So tell me that again, Matt. This list is about people looking to find new facilities?
Yeah, the rights holders that belong to Sports ETA, that whole goal for them is to find new venues so they can put new tournaments in or move their tournaments or whatever it is. They're not joining it because they have 10 tournaments that don't move.
Got it. Okay. Good. So the next step on this is you guys are going to make the updates, get it over to Matt, and then we'll kind of reorganize so that when you build the online, do you want to show them what the platform just looks like quickly online? So that's the Word document, but here's what it looks like online.
Oh, I see.
So they would just go through. So it's pretty user friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Great.
You guys created this? Great work, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and before we send it out, I'll have some people I know and trust, I'll have them run through it to see how long it actually takes them to answer. And
Okay.
then adjust, if we need to adjust something, we can adjust it.
Your marketing team.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Are we set up for a subscription?
I don't believe so. I mean,
I offered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I offered to help with that,
Okay.
but I can't give out my credit card. We gotta figure out how to.
what
It's
do we,
fine.
I mean, like to pay for what?
There's a subscription, you have to buy a annual subscription to the platform. So I'm happy to pay for it, but
Okay.
I just gotta,
Figure it out.
you guys get online with me live by phone and I'll give you the credit card to enter to
Okay.
buy the, okay?
Do you have the credentials to get into the site or?
Okay,
It
Matt,
never came through.
We don't need to make this that complicated. You can
Okay.
do this through
But
like
just-
Microsoft Forms.
301, I'll give you my cell,
Write it down.
301 452 2789.
so Matt, I think what this does,
Go online to buy it.
am I understanding that this will take the
Kelly.
data and kind of give us, what does this platform do? Does it give us some like,
We should be able to export it, because that was one of the things that we talked about in our last meeting, which we can just pull up. We haven't gotten a result, no one's gone through it yet, so I don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but we can always
Yep.
send it to you once we get at least one submission.
You're making this real complicated for no reason. You can literally do this for free.
How? Enlighten us.
If you have a Microsoft Office account, you have Microsoft Forms that does the same thing, dumps all the answers into a spreadsheet, and there's your answers.
The two Google guys, that's just.
They're all in, just
Yeah.
finish
If
it.
if you're comfortable with
Yeah.
bring it.
we're good? Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much. It was
Great job.
yeah, excellent job.
Got it.
Progress, really, it's good.
Yep. It's been already a long shot. Okay, so next part is we're gonna jump into GIS surveys and try and take a look at some properties around. Oh,
How
there you go.
beautiful.
I almost wanna get closer.
Yeah, yeah.
Hold on, let me-
Now, taking notes here.
Yeah. Alright.
Okay,
So we're working with Gabriel Patterson King from GIS. He was able to map out a total of 82 parcels. This is, the blue line is
It's a
obviously
link you can share.
the Montgomery County borderline.
yeah,
It was initially two maps, one for underutilized properties and one for vacant properties, both of which have now been merged into one single map. So that's basically all 82 parcels. You can also zoom into it and click directly into each one. So say right here. And he provided us with a total of number of acres for each parcel. Now, we included all the parcels, including taking into account the utility access, agricultural and conservation easements. Now, some of them are obviously very oddly and inconveniently shaped. I think I can pull up an example. We decided to keep them. I think we spoke with Bilal during our last meeting. We decided to just keep them. We weren't sure what you guys wanted to do. If you guys wanted to either break down this map even further and get actually the parcels that can fit between 10 to 15 acres, because that's really what we're looking for right now. If I zoom in, you can see kind of the shape of them all. I think I can pull up. Bilal, do you remember what was that one site we saw that was very weirdly shaped? It was all around.
Yeah, I think it was near Montgomery Village somewhere, out in the gate, but like this is a weird one too, that you just
Yeah.
had there. That's like also a weird one.
Like this one, for example, stuff like this. So we weren't sure what you guys wanted to proceed with, if you guys wanted to narrow this map down even further for the meeting with the council, or we can just keep this as is. So on the right, we have the number of acres per parcel, which he was able to put onto an Excel spreadsheet, which I'll show now.
That's a question. The vacant suggests who owns is there any element of ownership in this chart?
You could just look under to see the owner, but we didn't like filter for any specific type of owner. Because at the end of the day, we're not actually picking sites. We're trying to get a sense of like what's possible.
And it's
But is there
kind of-
public ownership in any of this?
We actually we removed parkland. But some of the others I don't know what would be a vacant public site other than that. I mean, there might be some, but I can't think.
is it county owned? I guess
There might be
if Parks is out, then it would be just county
Yeah,
owned,
exactly.
vacant land or underutilized land.
Yeah, if it fell into those definitions, then it would be here.
Okay.
And county government would show up as the owner.
Is there any way that he could
He could, yeah.
even add that to the color coordination to understand what is publicly owned versus privately owned?
Yeah, that's.
Because I think that would help us a
Mhm.
lot in understanding.
So would you guys want two maps separately? Just to differentiate the ownership of the places? Would that be
Public
good?
versus private.
Color,
It's
maybe.
a layer, so.
Yeah, it's just, I think color is fine. I think just another, if they put another color.
And we can also merge these. I mean, we originally were looking for infill sites. That's what underutilized refers to, and vacant was sort of, he did a site, he looked at the whole county for vacant properties, whether they were infill or not. So honestly, the definitions are kind of redundant. We can merge all of them and then just identify public versus private. We could probably pull out just the green field specifically, but there's not that many.
Is there a minimum size that we're looking at? Are we really? I'm actually was kind of surprised at the number of vacant properties that.
Well, do you want to pull up just the distribution of the sizes so we can get a handle of what the range is?
Did we ask that question in the survey? Like for like how big of a site do they need? No, we didn't ask that.
No, because there's different configurations, right? Like you could do it vertically for some of
Right,
these
right.
things, so.
I'm gonna pull up the Excel spreadsheet right.
Sounds
All right. Here it is. So I highlighted two colors. The blue one is just the smallest space available, and then the green one is the largest. All of these are spread throughout. These are all 82 parcels right here. And down here, I kind of got a range of the sizes of these spaces. So I got a mean of 16.55 acres. And then a mean of 22.10. So now if you look further into the quartiles, the 25th percentile is 11.23, meaning that the lower end of land availability has either 1123 acres or less of developable land. So I think it really depends what kind of space we're looking for. I think Bilal, we said we were looking between something that could fit between 10 to 15 acres. That was really the.
Yeah, well, it seems like the data sort of suggests that the most of these sites are gonna be, up to 25. There might be a few very large ones, but it seems like they're generally between 10 to 20 acres, and that's kind of what you got to play with.
And any of the reports that you guys reviewed, was there an indication of the size of those facilities that they were looking at? Do you recall that at all?
The original reports we had gone through.
Yeah, like any of those.
I think a couple of those reports had like just land size at the beginning, like in the opening statement, but I don't recall off the top of my head, but I think we can go back and check those.
Matt, what is the acreage up at the soccerplex?
400 or 500.
The soccerplex itself is 160. South Germantown Rec Park is about 700.
Or 160 on the soccerplex though.
I think in my opinion, I think we first have to look for what they want, what's the
Yes.
sports facility, because the size can really depend. It's a wide range between what they're actually looking for. So we can tell you all the sizes there are, but unless we know what kind of sports they're looking for and what kind of field they need, I don't think we really know how much to give them.
And remember, this is not only for sports, this is a multi-use facility
Yeah.
that must include a space for high school graduations.
Mhm.
And what was the MCPS answer on that question? How big their facilities need to be?
Jeff, I think.
Jeff had.
Do you have that, Jeff? How big they have to be? Like how many students?
It was like 8,000.
Yeah. That we had some of our larger schools some of them are at Maryland, some are at Mount St. Mary's, but if we had like an 8,000 seat.
8,000.
Yeah.
I had to feed that.
Well, part of I think the issue though with these, I mean, we definitely want to know generally what type of facility, but the land is informative. 25 acres being the sort of 75th percentile, that's not a lot.
Right.
Just the surface parking alone,
Yeah.
you know, if that's what you assume, that's half the site right there. Plus the building, plus the practice facilities, the fields are going to be big, multiple fields, you know, on one dimension is going to be a lot. So I think naturally, we're probably talking about a facility that has at least 2 stories.
Yes, definitely.
Or some kind of
Yeah.
component of height,
Yeah.
because
Cool.
So,
how else are you
but
gonna make it useful?
to get, and that was part of my question is, and asking Matt what the soccerplex, if the soccerplex is 160. Yeah, you can't build an outdoor
Well,
facility like that.
we're not a good example though, Keith, because we're not
Okay.
set up like a normal sports complex is. We're set up like a park.
Yeah.
So we have 50 yards between each field, which isn't how if you want to build a sports complex, that's not how you build it.
Gotcha.
But still, the basic concept is the same. There's
But
very
for-
few places that are big enough to have a
Yeah.
significant complex.
Yeah, just so to give you the math a little better, a soccer field is about 2.5 acres,
Okay.
and that's without parking.
Without
That's a
parking.
lot.
Yeah.
My God.
So we're in the 25th percent, we only have 25% or less available that we're even talking.
Well, so, but, yeah, and to your point, Kelly, I mean, it's not a we can understand what we need. But if we can't build that complex, that, I mean, let's, it's kind of dictating to us already
Yeah.
where we're going with this. It's not necessarily an outdoor spread out sports complex. It's more of an indoor type multi-use facility.
Like in Wi-Fi.
And I've said this before, but just want to go back on the record on this. And
Condition of the TIF.
Yes.
I just want to go back on the record on this.
Hold on. Go ahead, Matt.
And no offense to Jeff, I understand what your needs are there. But if we're building in that this has to be also a requirement to have a graduation site, like I don't know why I'm going to send this to any outdoor sports
Well,
operator.
that's a great question.
Because it's a waste of their time. It's a waste of our time to even consider it. If this has to be a graduation site, we should
Yes,
not be
it
looking
has
at
to.
indoor
It's
things.
a multi-use facility.
Why can't you
But
use?
this is my frustration with this committee. This isn't sports tourism anymore then. This is a graduation site that we're trying to find a second use for.
No, I wouldn't say it that way, and it's on the resolution. You have known this from the beginning. It's a multi-use facility.
Yeah, but it wasn't in the resolution. It did say must host the graduation. It's
I'll have
it
to go back.
could accommodate.
I think it was like to account for the possibility.
Yeah,
of
possibility.
including it. It did call it out.
So that changed, you changed it a little bit when you said must have
Well, it
versus,
will, well,
it'll sell better if it has that.
yes.
Yeah.
No,
And I just say to Matt's point
Yeah,
about whether you send it out to everybody, we're negotiating against ourselves. If we're trying to find out a lot of things, let's send it out to everyone with this yet to be resolved, both political and
yeah.
economic discussion of
Correct.
that. So let's find out, what happens if we found out that, wow, there's a terrific need for outdoor, and we could do that in sports tourism. It's not gonna be fitting with that, but then it's our job to identify that and then to move on, so we know more than we did when
I
they
agree.
first passed that.
I-
But I don't wanna cut things off before we even decide, just because we know there's multiple public policy interests around it.
But I'll go outside of the policy issues and go back to it's 25 acres. If we're looking at, we've got one facility over on an acre, we basically the average or whatever, we're dealing with 25. So back to Matt's point of, in that case, do we still, I understand what you're saying, but just based on land availability, do we need to restrict the survey
Yeah.
based on land availability? I'm asking that question, or I'm, making a statement. Matt, can you build a multi-sport facility outdoors and 25 acres, or 30 acres? Is that, that's competitive? Yeah, that's competitive and feasible?
I mean, at 25 acres, you're without parking, that would only be 10 fields. So probably 6 rectangular fields. I mean, depending on the configuration, you might be able to put some cloverleaf baseball fields in. Or softball.
Gotcha.
But are there any brownfield sites still in Montgomery County that haven't been looked at?
They would be accounted for in this analysis, yeah, if they have nothing being used. And I think did ComStat didn't show up. But there's an ongoing discussion there about its historical
show up on
preservation. Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's just like delisted. They're just like, I don't know what they're trying to figure out, but I also know that they are actively discussing part of the Clarksburg plan to put it under historical preservation, which gives you an adaptive reuse possibility.
What's historic about that building?
It was designed by Cesar Pelli.
It's old and unusable and terrible.
Yes.
It's.
It depends on whether or not you appreciate the history of architecture. It's just about, it's not my wheelhouse.
So
See the move to the Bruins.
So getting back to the survey, then Matt, based on this information, I think the group says, send out the survey. I agree with the conversation going down of, let's look at what is the best use, we can have the conversation, we understand. Ultimately, to sell this thing, we may, need to have multi-use facility, but I think that I'm understanding the task force is saying, let's send it out to everybody, let's get the feedback. However, again, the only question I'm asking is based on the amount of land that's available, is there, if that's not feasible to soccer fields, do you just send out to everybody but soccer? And again, I'm not saying that we want to start restricting, but that's kind of my question. Susan, I know did you have something, Susan?
I'm trying to keep pace with this because this isn't my area of expertise, but did we look at properties in the East County?
Yeah, it's countywide, so we have sites throughout the county.
Can you pull that map back up?
And what was the
I would just
cap?
add though, and this may be a question for Matt about, slimming down the list of organizers to send it to, because what is the economic impact to, we have to kind of compare to land value. Land's expensive in this county. So would a 6 soccer field facility, even if they were world-class soccer fields, sort of justify the investment? Whereas is it possible a use facility that's indoor, the Scott building can be used in more ways that generates more economic output to justify the land cost alone? I mean, I'm wondering if there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, I keep going back that we keep putting the cart before the horse. I think we need to find out what we need, and then you figure out if it's financially feasible.
Yeah.
Right, so then the survey goes.
Otherwise,
out
we're
to
throwing
everybody.
darts at the wall.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's the council and the county executive that are gonna reconcile the policy
Yeah.
priorities.
Yeah.
So I do think the role of, obviously you want to be mindful of that as you think about what you're gonna recommend to them, but yeah, I think going wider at the beginning is very appropriate for this task force.
And to be fair, like a couple things, like one, be fair, that your list of properties that's available is what's available at this very moment.
Yes, yes.
This
And
isn't going to be
excluding
built tomorrow.
ag land.
What's that?
And it excludes ag land.
Yeah. But
I'm just saying this.
Okay.
yeah, you don't know what tomorrow is.
have scars from last year.
I was like.
Susan again?
Sorry. I think, broad makes sense for now. As far as who we try to catch in the survey. Back in the map, the big purple on the right side in East County. What is that property?
It's Viva White Oak. And there was a discussion about the possibility of using phase 3 of their site development to account for this.
Okay, great.
Whether they're interested or not is a different question.
Of course, that would be the same of, I assume, all the other properties as well.
Yes, although that's like a real project, so maybe there's a conversation to be had.
Yes, well, they're real developers trying to do something there, so I think there's some reality there. But yes, it's up to them whether they're interested, but good. As long as it's there, I'm good. Thank you.
But the other point I wanted to make, and this kind of goes with the theme I always have, is I think we need to come up with what the best option is based on what the demand is, and go to the county and say, this is what the best option is, and then fight the political battles of this has to be for this other use and this other use and this other use. But if we're going down this hole of we have to include this, and this before we even know what we're talking about, this is never going to work, and we're going to waste our time and spin our wheels.
Yeah, Matt, I think we're all on the same page in that regards. I think so. Survey everybody. We've got an idea of the properties that are out there. And then we got to just continue to let it develop. However, and you can stop sharing, I guess at this point.
I think-
Wait,
I have a
one more,
question
one
about
more.
this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask a framing question? I find this very valuable to look at and to understand opportunities. Whether it's Matt or anyone else, it's my understanding from the last 15 minutes that there may be 3 places in the county that we could even consider for a outdoor related sports tourism.
That one on the left is doesn't count. It's Bellward Farm Campus, which is going to get like
Which one, the big one?
Yeah, the big one between Darnstown and Shervilla is.
Okay,
out of the
so
picture.
I'm just trying to, when I look at this map, and this isn't my thing, but I find it very interesting. this map suggests to me that there are basically no places except in the FDA facility or whatever we call it on in East County. And maybe up there, wherever that's Clarksburg, up the very end of the county. Other than that, according to what Matt's given us some, and he's the one who knows, there's really none of these places are likely to create a true outdoor recreation sports tourism opportunity. Is that fair? I'm just trying to get to the way I look at it from what we just spent all the time talking about. There's nothing's big enough.
I don't know if I agree with that. It goes, that's what the point I was trying to make. This is what's available at this very second. You don't know what's going to be available in 6 months or a year or whatever it is. You have, a farmer that's not in the ag reserve that doesn't want to farm anymore. And then now you have 200 acres to work with.
Didn't touch that.
All right.
Well, he said non-ag reserve.
He did say. Where?
They're big.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I think I understand that, but I think as we get the survey data back, as we continue down this journey, and so that's kind of where I wanted to go. And anybody have any other questions on this, Matt? If not, let's stop sharing that. So then the next question is, we're gonna get the survey out. We've got an idea of the land that's out there. We've got to get to a position in April where we're understanding what the ask is. And that's kind of what I wanted to throw out to the group now is kind of what is the, as we frame this, and again, we don't have to answer all the questions, but what is the ask going to be? Originally, the task force talked about getting some money into the budget to kind of further a study. Is, based on where we're at, what is that study? What are we thinking about in that regards as a next phase to this? Because that's what we need to get to by our April meeting. My goal is to come back to the April meeting and kind of frame that all out. So this way, we're ready to make the request to the committee and put it through its process. I guess I'm looking for.
Can you remind me how much are we talking about now?
So it depends. It depends on how many facilities you want to test the feasibility of. I think, as Matt has sort of pointed out, like if we wanted to consider this highest best use facility, regardless of the underlying size, that's just one thing. If you wanted to have multiple scenarios, like also consider one where it fits within the land portfolio that we know we have that's maybe slightly different. It doesn't maybe check off the big economic impact box, but maybe it checks off other policy priorities. And if you want to test the feasibility of that, so we have answers to both, you're just adding more analysis. So it's really a question of how many scenarios you want to test. At this point, to the extent that it's somewhat open-ended and that we don't have a great idea, you may want to be able to budget for a possibility of testing 1 or 2 facilities at least. I don't see how it could be done for less than 50. I think 100 is probably a lot in this budget, so somewhere in between there. Yeah.
And just a note on timing, the committee that will probably be the one who would actually be adding the money to the right budget would be the GO committee, because they are going to be adding it to the Office of the County Council. That meeting on the Office of the County Council is on April 25. The packet for that is due April 21. So that would be the drop dead date to get a letter. And I assume the way this would work is the chair of the committee would write a letter to the chair of the GO committee requesting this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Common operations.
So let me come back to this approach then. What level of detail do we need to present for the request?
I think the survey analysis that you
Okay.
guys are doing already, the map that we already have, and then based on the survey, we can say, well, this is what we have right now and this is a follow-up from the Econ Education and Culture Joint Committee. In order for us to have the next step, we need this much money to create a feasibility study based on the results of the survey and the land availability that we received from from the map and that's it. That should be,
Right, yeah, and I think the letter definitely needs to start with reminding everyone how this task force got created. Summary of the work that's been done so far. I mean, maybe I would go into some detail and demonstrate that, you know, a lot of work has been done. And then with the budget ask, we think that here's the specifics, you know, as much specifics as we can about here's the study that we would like to get funding for, and we think it's gonna cost this much money, and that we'll be able to test, you know, however many scenarios.
now I'm thinking that we might need to have a joint committee work session to get the entire econ and education and culture involved. Because that letter is coming from you,
Right.
but I wanna sign it, backing you up, but I also need Will as chair of econ to sign it. We don't have. time
What we
to-
could do is we could write a letter from you and Will to the Go Committee,
But they could,
attaching the letter and saying, we fully support this.
Yeah.
So I present the letter from the task force,
To
and then
me
there's,
and Will.
and then you guys
Yeah, you could do it that way too.
send it that way.
Yes, and then maybe
Yeah,
you
that's
can
actually
follow up with Will with a phone call from
Yeah.
you and be like, hey, I'm sending you this because Natalie's on board.
Yeah.
Did he come here to one of the meetings?
He did, yes.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
You
so
show
he's
up to
been-
one of the
yeah,
meetings
Yeah.
and
you
this
can
is the
offer
next
to meet
step.
with him too,
Yeah,
if you
we
want to
can.
meet with
As
everybody.
we get
To
close.
meet with him.
Yeah.
And then that goes to the, and then once we sign it, that package goes to the Go Committee.
Yeah.
And I can be there and then we can ask Will to also be there to speak
Okay.
on your behalf.
So, Matt, if I could, just one question before we get to Adrian, in your concerns, and rightfully so, of economic tourism and, of sports tourism first and foremost, and not trying to limit this, is there two categories of facilities we're looking for, one being an outdoor and one being an indoor? Is it, does that restrict us at all if we lump it into those two categories? I'm just thinking about, you know, the study, and we talk about the economic viability and stuff of that nature. Is that kind of like, as we go forward to the study, is, hey, look, outdoor and this is indoor, and then we're looking at different scenarios? Is that a way to approach this?
Yeah, I mean, this has been my argument the whole time. We keep putting, again, the cart before the horse. We don't know what we're trying to find yet. We gotta ask the people what they need and find that out. And then that drives the rest of the conversation. If we ask all these rights holders and they say, all the outdoor people say, we have no desire to come to Maryland, we can stop looking at outdoor stuff.
Right.
So like, we need to do that first. We've skipped like 9 steps to get to where we are now. And now we're having to go back to the first step anyway.
Understood.
Matt, it's Kelly. Does the Maryland Sports Office have a list of events that they've been unable to accommodate for whatever reasons? Almost like lost business?
I don't know if Terry compiles that list. I know if you ask most of the DMOs, they can say that. I mean, I have a list here of ones that we haven't got, but it's for a different reason. But most of the DMOs will say, yeah, we went after this and we didn't get it.
Okay.
And in your experience, Matt, in both your experience with Sportsplex and with ETA, do you know why, or do they tell you why? Like hey, you did a great job, but it wasn't the right cost, or it wasn't the right setup, or the timing didn't work, or do you have insights to why they say you didn't?
At
make
his
it?
facility?
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. Some are better than others. And, you know, we typically follow up if we don't win a bid. I think we're in a very different boat because we only have like 3 dates that are available. So a lot of it's just our date availability. But there are ones like, you know, when on a larger scale, when Baltimore didn't get the World Cup, we had a post conversation with FIFA to talk about why. So there are feedback that we do get. So
That's still a damn shame.
it really depends on the rights holder about how upfront and honest they are.
So the next step is get this survey out and get some data back from the survey before we,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna have to take that in between this and the next meeting is hopefully get some results back and we can start formulating this a little further along in April to narrow this down into how we're looking at it.
How long do you give people to fill out the survey? It's like 2 weeks window or
I'll give them a week.
a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think if they're gonna fill it, they're gonna fill it. Yeah, if they're gonna respond to it, I think they're gonna respond to it pretty quickly.
I might disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah, I'll ask my staff, but I think sometimes you gotta hit it 2 or 3 times. to
Well,
get
I mean,
your
uh,
Return that you
to-
want.
to cut some of that off, Kelly, that is one of the reasons the survey is coming from me. Because I know probably 75% of this list.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's a huge difference.
Yeah, that makes it, it's a more personalized.
I just wanted to throw something out there really quick. Sorry for
Sure.
joining late today, but as we move along, Recreation is doing a very small assessment at the moment and it's costing $50,000. So just to make sure that when we go for the ask of assessment, we're probably looking to do something comprehensive in the $100,000 ballpark. My larger facility assessments, DGS is reporting back, are going to be probably over that. So somebody may, or I'm happy to try to reach out to Greg Assant to see if he has a recommendation for us, but I just wanted to paint that picture as we move
Yeah,
forward.
reach out to Greg.
Yeah.
Reach out to Greg.
Good
Yeah,
call.
and I would say your estimate of $50,000 for a feasibility study is, we are not gonna get a good one back.
Well, we're
Yeah,
not gonna get a
very
good one,
small.
that's for sure, probably even for 100. I mean, I'm thinking even with planning's contracts, I mean, how many consultants do they have on the bench that they can never afford? So we always end up going the cheapest. That's kind of how procurement works around here. So I'm kind of worried about like what we're really expecting out of this study. I mean, I think we're gonna have to get numbers, but it'll still come back to all of you to really evaluate and make sense of it and make a recommendation. They're not gonna do that. That's just like kind of, I mean, there's no amount of money I think that's likely to be spent here that will actually get us the highest and best consultant at this point. So that's just a natural, like, we have to deal with.
Let's talk to.
I think you just raised a great question, and that is, what is the task force expecting from this study? I mean, are we expecting an answer because that's gonna be a large dollar amount, or are we just expecting more detailed information to formulate our recommendation?
It's all in how we write the scope. And
Yeah.
so what you're gonna get back, that's what it's gonna come down to. We can write a larger scope that's gonna cost more money, or a smaller scope, like the one I have now, that's a lot less money with expecting a lot less detail.
Right.
That's why it's likely gonna be somebody like a Partners for, I don't know, Economic Solutions, or one of those smaller firms that specialize in consulting with local government agencies, maybe some of the ones that consult with the state. I don't know, to the extent that they're exclusively working with MSA or others. Was it Victus or Victory? The one from
Victus Advisors.
Victus Advisors, they might, because they know how to do it, so they may be able to, but again, like, how much more new information are we getting out of that if they're doing the same study that they've done in Frederick?
Yeah, and again, going back to the time in this, I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page as far as we're gonna make this recommendation to get this study. And again, at this point, we're not giving, I don't think we can expect to get a final recommendation, and this is the final study. I think it sounds like we're too early on that, right?
Too early.
That we're just trying to get narrowed down the scope to then get information back to this task force to make a final recommendation?
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Is everybody in agreement on that, or, I mean, or do you think we should try and get to a more finished recommendation? I'm trying to
If
understand where we're at.
we're gonna do it right. We find the money to do a full study, and it comes back and says, yes, this is good, or no, it's not. Like,
But Matt, that
we're
means
gonna
then-
we're gonna just keep spending money to not get an answer.
I hear you, but then I think we need, if that's the case, and I appreciate that, and if that's what we're looking for, then I think we need to be further along in the committee, and maybe that's fine, because by the time we make the recommendation and get money built into the budget for a study, we still got, that doesn't become effective until July 1st anyway. So we still have time to continue to work and narrow it down and get a scope finalized.
Yeah.
Is that what we're thinking? I'm just trying to make sure we're all on the same page and where we're trying to get to, trying to get us to. So even though there's an interim step, whereas we need to go for an appropriation in April. Based on the timing, we need to go make a request. So we've got to frame this request enough that we can get the money budgeted. And then we've got to, between April and July or August, whenever we decide to put the study in place, we've got to get far enough along in the with the task force that we can finalize that scope. Right? Is that? So then basically we would need to understand at that point, we would need to understand more defined of what type of facility we're looking at and make that request.
I have to deliberate more. I mean, I don't know how much we have to figure out what additional work we would need to do to feel comfortable to suggest what specific facility they, the survey is just one step. Also, I mean, we have to just start writing now. I mean, I think the survey is not the be all and end all. We also did all this other work that we made good inferences from, so we can summarize that, which is important and it would be pretty surprising if we heard one thing that no one was expecting, that the only thing you can build is soccer fields and nothing else, we won't come to Maryland, right? So it seems like we're probably going to get some nuanced answer that probably corresponds with what you all already know. It seems like we'll probably have multiple options to consider regardless, so we can start to hone in on some of that based on the information and the discussions you've all had already.
Yeah, I think we can start framing a letter in the request now.
Yeah.
There's no, because it's not gonna be, what I'm saying is it's not gonna be that detailed by the time we make the request anyway.
Yeah.
But the task force will continue to work to define that, and then when we're ready to go for a consultant, we'll make the right request.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just more outreach then is the work of the task force, is inviting outside people to come to talk to you to help make the decision to fill in the gaps, because I mean, eventually we still have to have something to evaluate.
Right. Yes. Okay. I think we got a game plan. Anybody else have anything to add there? Otherwise, I think we've got direction going forward. Speaking of facilities, I did speak to the owners of the St. James, and they are willing to host us. So I think to go down and see that facility would be good. I guess what we would need to know is who wants to join in that trip, and then we need to start coordinating dates and how we're gonna handle that.
Okay.
So
Can we do it off rush hour?
yes, we would do it off rush hour, no question.
You let us know, and so the Economic Development Corporation Board, a couple of them, they wanna join us. And it's important because at the end of the day, as we move forward, we need folks excited about this
Yes.
to help us raise money. So,
Yeah.
Would it make sense to maybe ask your office or Katya, for example, to help coordinate all the people?
I can ask
Us and then MCEDC.
Yeah, that would be
Find
big help.
well,
some- Your dates are the most.
Okay.
we start with your schedule and then we.
And work on it. Okay, perfect. And then we'll start throwing it. So we'll throw some dates out for anybody who wants to go see that. I think that's another step in the process, is to at least get our eyes on that facility and see what it looks like and talk to them. They are, by the way, they have indicated that they are now looking to expand and put facilities in other locations, and they're looking for a location in Maryland.
God, can you imagine you
So-
come here?
That is, so, again, what does that mean and what does that look
They
like?
have a small space in Bethesda. don't they?
Yeah, very tiny though.
Yeah, that's just more of a gym, I think.
It's a gym.
Still, they have a presence.
Yeah.
And I can have a write-on for us, like if we have a group of
Sounds
people,
Can't
all
take
of us.
right on, but remember,
I can help.
they can't leave
We will work on, so takeaways from this,
to the ag.
if I could, we'll
Gotta-
just wrap this up, is we're gonna get the survey. Matt, thanks for your help on that. Let's get the survey out, because I agree with you 100%. That is the first step. We gotta get some feedback. We will start formulating the request letter. We'll start framing out the basic details that need to go into that request letter to hopefully have that framed out for the next meeting. And then we'll start working on coordinating a trip to the St. James. Is there anything else? Anybody wants to add?
Matt, when's this sports ETA conference? Where?
April 18th, somewhere around there in Tulsa.
It's like that, is it? That's a different, it's a fount, that is where everyone is.
Yeah.
You could walk around and get more, and talk to 100 people in one afternoon.
That's the list I'm working from.
I know, I'm just saying that in terms of yeah,
Okay.
it's Tulsa, who's gonna be in Tulsa?
Yeah, it's April 13th through the 18th.
Who wants to go to Tulsa?
No, I didn't say that. It's beautiful in April. I was like, oh, I would have to-
Okay, we'll wrap it up. We'll leave it there unless anybody has anything. Otherwise, we will see everybody in April
You wanna
and,
log in now?
go from there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
And lunch is here, guys.